Internal temp high, allowed to cool. That's not... Yes, well, hello, welcome back to another quick review with myself. And I know it's a little bit delayed, but, you know, shit happens. But yes, today I'm going to be doing a quick review on Bohemian Rhapsody. Sorry, I think it was last week, 2 weeks ago when it came out, and off the bat I'm going to say this film was... I can't remember if I swear in these. Fucking awesome, alright? There it is. This film was amazing. This is my trailer reaction to this was my highest viewed clip on YouTube so far, so thank you for everyone who watched it, and I try and follow that up with quite a good review, i.e. now. Obviously, if you've been following this film at all, you'll know that the performances have been given praise to the cows come home, so we won't start with that. We'll start about the story and the premise of the film to start with. Again, this film is essentially a biopic, or a rough biopic, I imagine, as it's been a little bit Hollywoodized and it's come through the Queen band. They kind of oversaw it, and you can kind of tell that they had quite a lot of input because, you know, the band themselves, like Brian May and the others, they come off very, very, very well in this film. They don't essentially ever do anything wrong. It's kind of is primarily about Freddie, but this film, it's came through a lot of development through the years, with Sacha Baron Cohen being tied to the film previously, getting rid of him, now Rami Malek. So it's a story about Queen, how it was born, and its kind of rise to where it is. It's an infamous band. You have to go in my opinion, you have to go quite a long way to find somebody who hasn't either heard of Freddie Mercury or Queen or Bohemian Rhapsody, of course. Yes, it's a film. It's a film telling Freddie Mercury's life from his beginnings, before he was even in the band, to essentially meeting the band, forming Queen, writing the songs, developing the songs, performing live, and obviously his personal life is kind of intertwined in it, which you do learn a lot about. For me, Queen is... I do very much love Queen. I love the band, I love their songs. Bohemian Rhapsody, I think, is the greatest song ever written, hands down. No song comes close to it. I mean, how the hell do you write a song like Bohemian Rhapsody? Let's be honest. It's wow. But yes, I knew quite a lot about Queen. Nothing super in detail. I kind of knew where it came from, knew some of the stories, knew a bit of background on the band, knew about Freddie Mercury and kind of what happened. With the sad, him contracting AIDS and dying. I think it was in the 80s or 90s, in the 90s. But yeah, this film taught me a hell of a lot, which I didn't know before. Like, I didn't know that he wasn't... This is going to be quite a story, but I didn't know he wasn't British. I never put two and two together. Which that started off, and then you learn the reason. You get him picked on because of his teeth, but then you realise why his mouth, he's got 4 extra incisors, which gives him the full vocal range, which is why he never got rid of them. And through the story about the girlfriend, the love interest, which he loved to his dying day and left everything to her. It's incredible. Like, I never knew she was that involved. And then you've got the villain, so to speak. I can't remember his name, but I absolutely hated him in the film. He was just It kind of goes through his storyline, him essentially coming out to himself, coming out to the band, changing as a person, going through a very, 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 very dark period, and then kind of with the film climatic end as what's kind of said to be the greatest rock and roll performance ever, which is Band Aid, which they did that justice. So yeah, that's essentially the premise of the film. Let's move on to the actors, the performances. Let's just start with Rami Malek. Jesus, that was a performance of a lifetime. I mean, actors can act, okay? And few actors can envelop who they're trying to show off, especially in a biopic. They've got to get it right, otherwise it just feels off. And my God, he absolutely nailed this performance. I was gobsmacked. I generally had to keep pinching myself, and reminding myself, this isn't Freddie Mercury I'm watching. This is an actor with a moustache playing Freddie Mercury in a film I'm now sat watching. It was incredible, just kind of the little nuances he did, kind of what he did with his mouth. You kind of see him, if you watch YouTube videos and stuff now of them performing or interviews, you can, that's what he did, kind of the way he held himself, kind of the way he kind of like twitched his lip, the way he walked, the way he strutted on stage, the way he danced with the stick and just interacted with the crowd. But one actor I don't think has had anywhere near recognition is the actor who played Brian May. Brian May is the lead guitarist of Queen, and you know he's one of the most influential people of Queen. And I honestly think, I don't know if I could say Rami Malek's performance is even better than him. This guy, he was Brian May. He was the guy. The way he stood, the way he looked, the way he talked, the way he played guitar. This was him. He was in the film. It was mad. I generally had to keep telling myself this isn't Queen. And them two actors, they absolutely knocked out the park. I think it was absolutely fantastic, and they need. I mean, wow! Like, your acting was insane. I mean, if there's not Oscar nods here, I know I said this about A Star Is Born, but if there isn't an, what's that? Oh, there's just a sign on my screen. If there isn't Oscar nods here, if there isn't at least one Oscar win for Best Supporting Actor, Best Actor, Best, I don't know, Best Music, it's gonna feel robbed, because they were just fantastic. One thing I am glad they didn't do, because obviously Freddie Mercury is famous for not only Queen but being Freddie Mercury, and kind of the legacy he left behind with what actually happened to him. Obviously he developed AIDS and he did later then die. I am glad that they touched on it. I mean, they went into how far off the rails he really went, and there was obviously multiple reasons for this, and I'm glad they covered all that, because you really learn about who the character was. You like, oh my god, I had no idea how, you know, damaged this guy was, what he was just looking for the whole time, he just couldn't get. And they glossed over, obviously, they never told you how he got it, or they just kind of showed you his personal life briefly, went through it and just kind of showed you the impact it had on himself and the band without going into too much, like, you know, granular depth, which I'm glad they did. I mean, they did it the perfect amount. I think they got across the information that needed to get across, and was, you know, beneficial for the story, but they didn't dive too deep to kind of make it a dark, kind of not a very nice telling, because it wasn't a nice thing that happened to him, and it was kind of a very, you know, tragic loss. So the way they went about it, I think they got it spot on. I mean, I didn't personally realise how much of a dick he became at certain points. I mean, granted, the band broke up numerous times, they argued constantly, but they're all still friends and and family. But I didn't realise how much of a diva, or just kind of, his behaviour was horrendous at points, and he kind of does get that across, and how you do kind of feel for the band having to put up with this. But it's part of the story of Queen, and why they're amazing, and why they're just so different to everyone else. They were themselves, and it was just a fantastic thing to watch. They got that bit just spot on. One thing I loved and hated of the film as well was the villain. I can't quite remember who played him. I wouldn't say the villain. Well, the villain, yeah, he is portrayed as the villain. It was the manager lover guy that got into Freddie's head and, you know, just completely just twisted him, and I don't know how accurate that was, but it was just such a horrible. He reminded me of Joffrey. That's how much I detested this character. He reminded me of Joffrey from Game of Thrones, and it just, every time he was on the screen, okay, granted I couldn't take my eyes off him, or what was going on, and it was just so, you know, well portrayed. But God, I fucking hated him. Oh. Something I did say earlier on was you can tell that Queen had a hand in this film. Brian May, and obviously at the top of my head I forget the others. You can tell, because it is very polished, so to say. Kind of in the premise that they do come across very, very well, and kind of some of the stuff that does happen, it wasn't true. It was kind of slightly changed for, you know, for the film. But I don't think it detracts anything from the film. It just kind of takes away some of the, you know, the issues around the band, and lets it focus more on the music and the development of their, you know, just the music that nobody else was making, and, you know, around Freddie and his story, and just doing him justice. So in that way, I'm kind of I'm happy with what they did. I don't think they needed to kind of do extra, you know, deep digging, diving, showing extra fallings out. They did a good job, and something I did love was showing them how they made the music, just the inventive ways they were trying to be different. They were doing stuff in the studio which nobody else was doing. They were just completely themselves, and the music that came out of it, you know, I mean, it stood the test of time, and it's left a legacy. Coming on to probably the greatest part of a film I've seen in quite a while was Band-Aid was a massive deal. It was humongous, and it was new to everything, and I did know a little bit of the story behind it, where their manager actually they made them the loudest band. You saw it in the film. He turns up the dials. They made them the loudest band, and the reason they wanted to do it was kind of show up all these bands at once, and they wanted to show who they were and what they're about, and the performance was incredible. Again, I was expecting, when it started, I was okay, it's the Band-Aid performance. This is one of the most famous performances ever put to TV, ever seen by anyone, with audiences in the masses. And this, I thought, okay, they're going to, they'll maybe do one song properly, and then they'll gloss over the others, and it'll kind of only be about 5 minutes. But this was a big set piece, and I've since learned it was the first day of filming. So, you know, it was a big task, but this was a hell of a set piece. I mean, they didn't just do one song, they didn't do a song, they pretty much did the full set, back to back, and you know, the music, the visuals, everything just kept giving me goosebumps. It was incredible. I love music in films, especially when it hits you. That's why I loved A Star Is Born, because it's so impactful and passionate. It just gets you, and then now you've got Queen doing it, and in Wembley, is it Wembley Stadium? I think it's Wembley Stadium. In front of all these people, and he's dancing around stage. You've just learned about the backstory, what he's just going through, and he's back with his band, and the music they were doing was just incredible. It was just song after song after song. And I have since watched again the Band-Aid recording of them doing the show, and it's uncanny how close Rami was to Freddie Mercury, and the movements he was doing, the way he was shimmying across stage, the way at one point he bends over and looks through his legs at the crowd. He did that, and just all the bits and bobs, the nuances, the singing, the dancing, the interacting with the crowd, interacting with the band was fantastic. And honestly, I could not commend them enough. That scene was, 15 minutes of the film was tremendous, and I think it was the perfect way to round off the film. It was just incredible. I mean, I don't know what to say. Go watch it. Okay, well, I hope this hasn't been too long and I haven't ranted on too fucking much. But, I mean, look at that. Internal temp high, allowed to cool. That's not... Okay, apologies about that. Camera hooked up. Right, okay, well, I hope I haven't made this too long. But I know it wasn't a perfect film in any means. It does have its flaws, but I'm happy. They're not flaws that ruin the film for me. They're just kind of... I mean, yes, the band has kind of altered bits and bobs. I think it made a good impact on the film. It didn't keep it too dark, and it got the story across as kind of they wanted to, and I think how it should be, because Freddie Mercury was a fucking legend, and he still is. He's amazing. Queen are amazing. I love the music still. This film was brilliant. As I said, it gave me goosebumps throughout the whole thing. I had to keep reminding myself that it wasn't Freddie and it wasn't Queen. It was... You know, I mean, that's how good this film was. I generally kept forgetting that it wasn't them. And again, if there's not Oscar nods here, Oscar nominations, I don't even know where they should go in future, because if Rami Malek or even Brian May's character doesn't get an Oscar nod or an Oscar win, I think it'd just be terrible, because they really were fantastic. I can't praise them enough. So yes, overall, I'm going to give this film a... do I go ABC? Or do I go 1, 2, like 7 or 8, 9? How do I normally do it? I'm going to give this film an 8 out of 10. Make sure you go see it. It's amazing. Trust me, you won't regret it. Remember, like, subscribe, comment. Take it easy. Until next time.